This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. I'm Sophie Ikenye. Our top stories. 5 suspects, including a Canadian-Somali, have appeared in court in connection to Tuesday's deadly attack at a luxury hotel in Nairobi. Clashes have continued in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, following 2 deaths on Thursday, with reports that police have fired live ammunition. What happens now? The African Union gets involved in the DRC's disputed presidential election result. Also in the program, Guinean R&B sensation, singer Soul Banks discusses his musical career and why he insists on filming his music videos in the neighborhood he grew up in.
It's important to show them the reality, and that's why whatever we do, music, video, we, go to the neighborhood.
And in sport, the title holders, Tunisia's Esperance, beat Zimbabwe's FC Platinum in the African Champions League. Thanks for joining us on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Let's begin in Kenya, where 5 suspects have appeared at the High Court in connection with the Tuesday's attack at a luxury hotel in Nairobi. They include a Somali-Canadian citizen. 21 people were killed in the attack that was claimed by the Islamist group Al-Shabaab. A 20-hour siege at the hotel came to an end following the killing of all 5 attackers. So let's now go straight to Nairobi and speak to the BBC's Mercy Juma. What can you tell us about these suspects and the court decision, Mercy?
Thank you very much, Sophie. So there was 1 woman and 4 men who walked into Milimani courts in Nairobi, their heads bowed down. They were not looking at anybody, and it was quite difficult to read any facial expression on their faces. These 5 were not expected to take any plea because at the moment no charges have been preferred against them yet, and they were in court today because the Directorate of Public Prosecutions wants more time to do investigations, saying this is quite a delicate investigation to carry out and the prosecutors need to travel to various parts of the country. So the court has allowed them to be remanded for 30 days as more investigations are done.
All right, Mercy, away from that, we understand something extraordinary happened in the Eastleigh district of Nairobi. What is it exactly? So, Sophie, today in Eastleigh, which is just outside Nairobi, it is a large business community basically, and the majority of the people who live in Eastleigh are Somalis, and I would say about 80% are also Muslims. Today they closed all their shops for 1 hour from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and they came out in the streets led by their member of parliament in solidarity with the people who were killed in the Dusit D2 attack. They condemned the attack and said they do not support the few rogue people who come out and use their religion or their nationality to conduct these heinous crimes. So they were basically condemning this act and supporting the families that lost their loved ones and those who were injured or affected. And we talked to one of the business leaders from the Eastleigh community, and this is what he had to say.
The Eastleigh Business Hub, led by the Eastleigh business community and the area leaders, have decided to close shops today in solidarity with the victims of the Riverside attack. It was a barbaric attack, and it's a condemnation of that attack.
So, Sophie, first of all, it's just 3 days since this attack happened, and Kenyans are trying to come to terms with what's happening. There are so many developments, from the court cases to all these people coming out condemning, the other nationalities coming out to condemn this attack. But we're still getting survivor stories. We're still getting people coming out to say, I really thank God I came out of that. And today we met one man, Abdullahi Ogello. If you see the CCTV footage coming from the scene of the attack, this is the man who last walked just in front of one of the attackers, who later blew himself up just 15 seconds after this man passed him. And he told us of his story of disbelief and just thanking God that he is alive. This is what, or part of our conversation.
So I had some words from him asking, where are you? Where are you? In fluent Swahili. Where are you? Where are you? See, I am. Then I checked back at him for twice, 2 glances I gave at him. There's like something like my blood was tensing. Immediately I entered the restaurant. That's when they had the explosion. So I jumped out. We were running all. So the moment I passed that point, I saw some body parts. Then I thought, yani I just passed over somewhere. There's also the bomber here.
When you saw the video, the CCTV footage showing you just passing the suicide bomber and then this explosion happening, what went through your mind?
I was shocked, and I thanked my God. I thanked my God and said to myself, that wasn't my day. That wasn't my day. I was shocked. Even after reaching the house, I had to text our security manager asking, can you get me that clip? And just want to keep it for souvenir. I just want to keep it for souvenir. I did pass by a suicide bomber, but it was a close shave.
So when you got home that evening, what was the reaction of your wife and your 4 children?
The first person at the door were my kids. Then all looked at my face like they were shocked. My wife was also standing there. My firstborn was here watching the TV, KBC, still seeing them. But he looked at me. I said some salams over there, assalamu alaikum. Then they replied, but still looking at my face. Dad is here, Dad is here.
Were you okay? Could you be able to communicate with your family?
I didn't feel like eating because the stomach was full of acid. I felt like throwing out. I had to buy some antacids. Then the stomach was very trauma, so like the diarrhea in kidogo. I went to the toilet kidogo at that time. The whole day, night, I didn't sleep because I slept very late at 1 a.m. and had to switch off my phone because calls were coming in every time. Then at 3 a.m. I was up again till the whole day on Wednesday. I didn't sleep. All toilet every time, toilet every time, toilet every time, until today the appetite is coming back.
Looking back at what happened, could you have done anything different at that point?
I could save the situation because the span of the explosion after passing here, it was slightly less than a minute, so nothing could have been saved. Yeah.
So quite a story there, Sophie, and he says he keeps going back to that clip and he's still in disbelief, and that is the state of many Kenyans even today. Many people are still avoiding the area of the attack, the road that passes there. It is still a crime scene. Police are still doing the investigations. In the coming week, we'll still hear or get to see people taking their loved ones, taking them for burial. And we're going to see many reactions still to this story, and definitely we'll keep tabs on the court cases, any arrests, and we'll give you any information that we get to update you on the case. Back to you, Sophie, in studio.
All right, Mercy Ijuma for us there in Nairobi. Thank you. Well, let's now take a quick look at other stories making headlines across Africa. The Zimbabwean Human Rights Forum has accused the government of shutting down the internet to conceal rights violations during protests this week over fuel price hikes. Earlier on Friday, internet access was blocked but has now been partially restored. The group claims it's recorded 844 rights violations during intermittent shutdowns this week, including extrajudicial killings and excessive use of force.
The prosecution in its
now, former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo will remain in jail until the 1st of February. That's the date the International Criminal Court has set for the prosecution's appeal against Tuesday's ruling that Mr. Gbagbo should be acquitted of crimes against humanity. Now, the charges were in connection with post-election violence in 2010, in which 3,000 people died and 500,000 were displaced. Now, clashes have continued in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, with reports that police have fired live ammunition at hundreds of people mourning the death of a man killed during anti-government demonstrations. A police car at the scene was attacked and overturned. On Thursday, a doctor and a child were shot dead. Now, protests began in the city of Atbara last December when the price of fuel rose and the price of bread tripled. The protests spread to 6 other cities, including the capital, Khartoum. Now, Sudan's doctors went on an indefinite strike on the 24th of December in the first of a series of work stoppages in support of protests, calling on the country's longtime leader, President Omar al-Bashir, to step down. Well, the government has confirmed 24 people died, but human rights groups say the number is around 40. Now, over the past 5 weeks, protesters have been demonstrating predominantly on Fridays. Well, Sudan's doctors are emerging as a leading force in this wave of anti-government protests. So let's bring in Dr. Sarah Galil. She's the president of Sudan's Doctors Union branch here in the UK. Thanks for taking time to talk to us on the program. And you have colleagues who are on the front line of these protests in Sudan. What are they telling you? What is the situation like?
The situation is that the Sudan uprising is continuous, using different tools. Part of it is the demonstration, as you have mentioned, which are peaceful demonstrations. But there are other tools like the doctor strike, which as well has been accompanied by other strikes from the lawyers and the journalists. And on Sunday, the teachers will start as well a 7 days strike. Unfortunately, although all of these are peaceful tools asking for the rights of the people of Sudan, but they were faced by excessive violence, leading to death and arrest, detention, and a lot of casualties.
Does that bother you at all, the fact that there are casualties during these protests? That how long are you going to go on for?
I think at the moment this is one of the big threats that been facing the government or the current regime since 2013. And there is a united agreement that people are asking for the peaceful handover, and they have planned that by the Declaration of Freedom and Change. And they as well have thought about the transitional period after that and planning for democratic election.
Sorry, let me interrupt you here. Tell me more a bit about that Declaration of Freedom of Change. Who are the signatories here and what is it exactly?
So the Declaration for Freedom and Change is supported nationally. It has got 9 steps. It starts by the peaceful handover of power, and it goes through the transitional period, and it ends by the democratic election. The major political parties have signed to it, as well as the Sudanese Professional Association, which include the majority of the unions. But there has been a national support, and even the Sudanese diaspora outside Sudan have been as well signing to what is known as Rebuilding and Reconstruction Initiative.
Right, okay. So thank you very much indeed for bringing us up to speed on the developments in Sudan there. Dr. Sarah Galil, thank you. Now, the African Union has finally weighed in on the elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The regional body has called for the final presidential results announcement to be postponed. Now, it's a very rare move that's been outrightly rejected by authorities in the DRC. Gaius Kowene has more from Kinshasa.
The Democratic Republic of Congo is waiting for the final decision of the Constitutional Court after opposition candidate Martin Fayulu filed a complaint to challenge the win of another opposition leader, Felix Tshisekedi, who was announced by the Electoral Commission as a winner last week. Martin Fayulu says he won these elections by a wide margin and accused Felix Tshisekedi of striking a power-sharing deal with the outgoing government, accusations that Felix Tshisekedi have rejected categorically. By the law, the Constitutional Court is supposed to announce its final decision, its final ruling after 7 days, and the 7 days end this weekend. However, the African Union has called upon the Constitutional Court to wait before announcing the final results so that the African Union has time to bring in diplomats, head of state and head of government to talk to different stakeholders, politicians, and prevent what they fear, post-electoral violence. I talked to some residents of Kinshasa, and this is what they think about this call of the African Union.
L'Union africaine a eu une bonne idée de faire les choses là.
The African Union's idea is good. It's very important for us, the Congolese people, because sometimes some people at the Constitutional Court don't do things as they should be done.
I don't think it's timely, because that candidate went to the Constitutional Court. We should listen to the Constitutional Court first before the African Union can say anything.
Now we are waiting to see if this delegation will have any impact at all on the ongoing electoral process, or even if it will be able to push back the swearing-in date of the incoming president, which is planned for Tuesday.
Gaius Kowene there reporting. This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Still to come, in basketball, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver speaks about growing the game in Africa. I'm Sophie Ikenye and you're watching Focus on Africa from BBC World News. The top stories on this program: 5 suspects, including a Canadian-Somali, have appeared in court in connection to Tuesday's deadly attack at a luxury hotel in Nairobi. The ongoing clashes have continued in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, following 2 deaths on Thursday, with reports that police have fired live ammunition. Now, the murdered Ghanaian investigative journalist Ahmed Hussein Swale has been buried in Accra today. The journalist was a key member of a team which exposed corruption within the Ghanaian Football Association. An MP who had threatened him on social media, Kennedy Gyapong, has left the country after being questioned by police. He denies any involvement in the murder. Well, the BBC's Thomas Nadi was at the funeral.
Family members, colleague journalists, friends and loved ones have all gathered here at the Medina Welfare Cemetery in Accra to bid farewell to murdered undercover journalist Ahmed Hussein Swale. It's a very solemn ceremony, and many are still struggling to come to terms with his death, especially his family.
It's one of the biggest losses that the family has incurred. We just got into New Year, January 2019, and one of the things you come across is the death of one of our brothers. It is a big blow to the family, and the family is actually in a serious grief.
Ahmed Hussein Swale was shot 3 times, twice in the chest and on the neck, on Wednesday night by unidentified gunmen. Ghana is a relatively media-friendly country, and his death has come as a shock to the country. Thomas Nadi, BBC News, Accra.
You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. Let's find out what's happening in the world of sport. Mimi.
Thank you very much, Sophie. We begin in the African Champions League, where the celebratory mood from their centenary celebrations continued for Tunisia's Esperance as they beat visitors FC Platinum of Zimbabwe 2-0. Both the goals came from Tunisia international Taha Kennesi. The match was played behind closed doors in Tunis after the crowd trouble in their semi-final and final games last season. There are 2 matches currently taking place, and in just over an hour's time, Algeria Saoura take on 8-time winners Al Ahly of Egypt. In the English Premier League, there are fixtures to keep an eye out for this weekend. Liverpool, who are top of the table, will be hosting Crystal Palace as they're currently in 14th position. Liverpool will be looking to extend their lead, and at the NBA game in London, Ghana international Jeffrey Schlupp told me that he believes his club, Crystal Palace, can spring up another surprise, something that they did against this season's defending champions.
You have to go into every game thinking you're going to win it, and you know, we went to Manchester City and beat them, so why not there? We've had some good results there recently in past years. We've beat them I think 2 out of the last 3 times at Anfield, so we go into the game confidently, and hopefully we can get a win. Starting to pick up some good wins now, and building up a bit of momentum, and hopefully we can carry on doing that and take that to Anfield. Hopefully we can start there and we can carry on winning.
Still staying with the English Premier League, there's a London derby to look out for this weekend. Arsenal will be playing at home to Chelsea. Arsenal have lost 4 of the last 8 games in all competitions, having been unbeaten in their previous 22 matches. But Arsenal Nigeria international Alex Iwobi told me he believes their things are picking up at the moment.
We're doing well. I mean, we went on that unbeaten run. Unfortunately, the results haven't been going our way recently, but we're going to come back and we're going to bounce back. We have a big game against Chelsea, so we're very confident. Hopefully we can get a result and kick on.
Do you think that you can finish top 4 this season?
Yeah, I mean, we believe in the quality we have, that we should be achieving that goal, so we need to just concentrate on the next few games, and I'm sure we'll end up in the top 4.
And in basketball, over the past few years, the NBA has annually played one of their games in London. And now NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, who was in the British capital, says they're looking to grow the sport in Africa. He spoke on Thursday as the Washington Wizards had a nail-biting last-minute win against the New York Knicks 101-100. He says there are many possibilities to hold it on the continent one day.
We see enormous opportunity throughout the continent of Africa to continue growing the sport. We think arena development is critically important in order for that development to continue, and that's something that we're engaged in conversations with African leaders about on a regular basis. But I anticipate that we will again next summer play a game, of all-star format type game in Africa. I think for a regular season game or even a preseason game, we're not quite there yet, but as I said, it's not a logistical issue. We could do it. I just don't think we'll get as much benefit from a quick trip like that.
And finally, more transfer news today. Cardiff City have signed Everton and Senegal international striker Oumar Niasse on loan until the end of the season, with an option to make the move permanent. And Nottingham Forest have signed Leicester City and Tunisia international defender Yohan Benalouane. The 31-year-old has moved on an 18-month contract for an undisclosed fee. And that's all the sport. Back to you, Sophie.
Thank you, Mimosa. Thank you. Now, Suleiman Bangura, better known by his stage name as Soul Bangs, is a Guinean R&B singer. He's won numerous awards for his music and sings in Sosu, Malinke and Pula. Those are the various languages of his native country. He mixes traditional rhythms with modern melodies. Renee Bisohom from BBC What's New went to meet him. Nico.
He started singing on the streets of Conakry at the age of 11, building up a loyal following over the years by blending traditional tunes with an R&B sound. Now Guinean soul maestro Suleiman Bangula, aka Soul Banks, is taking on the world. I caught up with him between rehearsals to ask him why he chooses to make his music video in the more deprived areas of Guinea.
While I'm doing my music video, I wanted people to know who I am. So, to see what I'm living in my country. So it's important to show them the reality. And that's why whatever we do, music, video, we, go to the neighborhood, show how people live.
In 2016, he won the RFI Discovering Prize and was quickly signed by music giant Sony and spent the last year on tour, which saw him playing to huge crowds across the continent.
The first time you ever had the performance, how was it for you?
I remember my first show, my first biggest show I did here in Guinea. I was wondering myself if I could have even 5 persons to appreciate, to love my music. And I saw people, I start crying. Unbelievable. I can find more than 20,000 people, and it's crazy, man. Yeah.
But unlike some songstars who sing about luxury and love, Soul sings about daily life, linking music to reality, and filming his music videos in the streets of Conakry.
How would you describe your musical evolution?
What I'm doing as music is music from, from everywhere, from Guinea, from Africa, from America, because I get my inspiration from a lot of artists from different countries. But what I like about it, is I can change the world with it. I can change my society, my community. I can bring my community on point, to let them know this is what is possible. And there's a lot of people get inspiration from me. I think that's important for me.
Soul Bangs there. Don't forget, you can get in touch with me and the rest of the team. I'm on Twitter @CKenya. That's all from the program, from me and the rest of the Focus on Africa team. Thank you for your company.